So as Stephanie said, my role is really to give you a sense of where we're going or where we might be going. And what I would say is that the future isn't guaranteed. Whenever you hear someone say, this will happen or you must do this, you should walk away because none of us know for sure. And I spend my time trying to help people understand the future, but I want you to understand my world. I was at an event for marketing agencies a couple of weeks ago, and it was coffee before my speech. I'd taken my badge off. I was going to go and put my microphone on. And this guy said to me, oh, there's some arsehole who's going to talk about metaverses and AI and all that crap. What do you think I should do? And I said, I can't really tell you, but if it's any help, I'm the arsehole. It's true story. I didn't make that up. I'm not that funny. But what I'm going to do is not try and sell you anything. I don't care whether you get involved in these things or not. What I want you to do is just understand these and why some of these technologies are just an evolution. We went from teletext to the internet, to smartphones, to social media, to video. And it's just understanding what is this stuff and why are other people doing it. It's not about getting defensive about why you're not doing it. I think it's perfectly fine to stay exactly in the space you're in if you're making money and you're happy. Like, don't give yourself stress, don't cause yourself heartburn, don't stay awake at night. Just don't, right? Understand what it is and then decide what you want to do. So let me take you on a tour. I think what's happening is really interesting. We're moving into the nerdverse. The nerds are driving technology development. 21-year-olds building the most incredible ideas. What we're seeing is the big tech companies are understanding the power of data. They're building the storage systems to do this. They're building the applications to do this. Between the big tech companies and governments like China and the US, we're going to put more than $1 trillion just into AI in the next 5 years. They're betting the ranch on it. They're betting their businesses on this. So it's worth spending at least a few minutes understanding why and where it's going. And a lot of the top talent in tech is moving into these spaces. Why AI? Well, in particular, what we're seeing is people saying, I'm not doing this because I love the science. The scientists are doing that. But the commercial organization just saying, particularly in the marketing space and the advertising space, we can either improve revenues or cut costs or do both. So how might this technology help me, and how are the people who are doing it using it, and why are they using it? And so, you see all those words on the screen, lots of really interesting things from helping you in the individual moment understand some possibility right there, right then. So you're at a football match, you're sitting there, a drone is now bringing you your food. 2 years' time, Tottenham Hotspur will have this. Already we see drone deliveries. But if we know who you are and we know what you buy every week, and we can compare that data to what other people buy, I can start to put personalized adverts on the wrapper for the burger you buy. We're down to that level of what the technology can do. So we need to understand the kind of potential so we can make our own choices. And I see with AI, the sort of places we could go in the next few years, it's very likely that we're going to see more in the near term automation. It's reasonable to see that because more and more people are using it. Just automation of the processes that we do as humans. And we're already seeing it in SEO optimization, content generation, that's already happening. It feels likely that we'll get there. But that's what's called narrow artificial intelligence, very good at one specific application. The AI community are really interested in the idea of getting to artificial general intelligence, which will have basically the same kind of capabilities as you and me. Reasoning, planning, interpretation, all those things, language skills. It's unlikely in the next 5 to 10 years that it will have consciousness or the kind of deep emotions we might have, but it should have the other stuff. Whether it comes in 5, 10, or 15 years, that's certainly where the investment's going. So we might get halfway there within 5 years. There's a good chance. So a lot of the things that we thought were executive roles, like planning, like forecasting, like budgeting, like interpreting data, we could see AI being capable of doing that. And again, it's not whether you like the idea, it's not whether you believe me, it's whether you give yourself permission to go and spend 20 minutes understanding this after this talk. And then the third one, which is the goal of the AI community, is to get to the point where AI is as smart as us. I hate the idea, but others love the idea. If you're working in the field and you're a nerd, you love it. If you're an investor, you love it. If you're a government, You don't want to talk about it, but you love the idea of cutting your cost base in half. If you're a big business, and we work with quite a few, they're very excited about cutting their cost base in half. They're not so excited about telling their staff about this. But you can see what's going on. And we're seeing this being used in all sorts of places. And often people in this kind of sector will say to me, well, those are big businesses, they don't count. But the interesting thing here is, like with the web, like with social media, we move from big businesses doing stuff, improving the technology, we move up the learning curve really fast, the price drops, and it becomes software as a service. It becomes something that you could offer your customers, whether you're in the web development realm, the advertising realm, the directory realm. It starts to become a possibility for you. So Levi's can take information about product sales, they can take the weather information, social media conversation, and predict what might happen next, work out how to personalize offers. In China, what they were able to do was to identify that within all of their customer base for a particular t-shirt, teenage girls were the ones most likely to buy this. And they could actually suggest keeping the price the same for that group, but lowering the price to other groups who might want to buy it. Whereas the salespeople were just saying, cut the price so we can sell. You all use Amazon. How often does the price of a particular product change on Amazon? Anyone want to have a guess? Every 10 minutes. Depending on what device you're using, if you're using the latest Apple laptop or iPhone, I can guarantee will pay more than if I'm using a $20 smartphone from the streets of India that's been made by someone on the streets of India. If I'm using an IBM laptop, I'll pay less. If I go back more than twice, the price will go up the third time I go back. They're able to do that with the tech now. And you know all about the recommendations, personalized text. Coke can now automatically generate their logo on anything they're doing with the right logo for the market they're in, personalized text, generate personalized emails for you wherever you are in the world. That technology is now available for a few euros. It's not just the domain of Coke. They're one of the first to do it, but we can all now do this. Moving on to the metaverse. So the metaverse is not new. It was an idea created in a book called Snow Crash back in the 1990s by an author called Neil Stephenson. And he basically said, look, where we could go from here is to create these virtual worlds where people could spend a lot of time. We already see people doing it in games, but on their own. And now we have over 3 billion gamers in the world. A lot of those are in virtual worlds, whether it's Grand Theft Auto, Minecraft, Roblox, that was already there. What changed was last year, Facebook decided that it wanted to take its 3 billion users of social media platforms and put them into the metaverse because it thought it could create richer experiences which would generate more money. It already made the Oculus Rift headset, and it just felt it could do more. Last year alone, it spent over $12 billion on building its metaverse platform. It's crap, right? If you look at the Horizons platform, it is horrible. It looks worse than 1980s video games consoles. And that's something to understand, is the metaverse right now has horrible graphics. So don't expect to see the kind of CGI you would see in an Avengers movie. We have to understand where this is, but we also have to understand that a lot of people are very happy with that. Last year, Ariana Grande did a concert in Fortnite, a metaverse. 78 million people watched that concert. Didn't charge a penny for it, but they made over $20 million in sales from that concert of people buying an NFT, just a digital representation of her clothing, her earrings, all sorts of experiences. Again, you might go, this is crazy, this is mad. Let's just understand what's going on, then decide if you like it. And what you could see is when you buy that earring or those earrings, that's not a one-off thing. Because it's a digital representation that you're the only person who owns that thing, I can keep advertising to you for life. You're a captive audience, so I can keep promoting stuff to you. If because there's only 10,000 pairs of those earrings, you want to sell them over time, they're likely to go up in value, which means they're a captive audience, which is why so many brands have got interested. We're also seeing all sorts of clever things. So Stella Artois sponsor the Kentucky Derby in the States, a horse racing event. They've now created an online version of that where you can buy a racehorse, or you can sponsor a racehorse, or you can buy an NFT of a racehorse in this derby, or you can ride it. Again, making hundreds of thousands of dollars from people buying the virtual version of this. And again, you've got them captive, you can pump ads to them. Samsung did the launch of one of their phones, the 837X, did it in one of the virtual worlds as a new way of communicating to a different audience. One of the things to understand is we're not necessarily trying to communicate to the 58-year-old garage mechanic who might be a typical customer. They might not be your prime customer, but what we know is there are millions of people now who have made money in the virtual world. They've made millions or billions, and they want to work in that world. There are people working in that world already, so we're talking about reaching those audiences. 350 million crypto owners in the world, 3 billion people used to playing in virtual worlds in different ways. So it's about understanding that audience and who might want to play in that world and how do we reach them. And that's why Samsung is saying, actually, this is a key audience we want to get to. We can take TV ads, we can try and advertise in the normal places, but if we create a bit of an experience in a world that they're comfortable with, or we can place ads inside the games they play, we have a whole new opportunity. And this is uncontested space right now. There's a lot of people who could go into this space. No one owns it. Everyone is playing for it. So it's about what do we give ourselves permission to do? Where do we want to stretch to? What are the possibilities? Miller Lite, during the Super Bowl, you could, obviously they sponsor the Super Bowl halftime show. They created a halftime bar, and actually it went through the whole game, where you could go to the virtual bar. 15 million people went to that virtual bar just to watch it. I don't understand, but it's happening. So it's like, well, what could you put in front of them when they're at that virtual bar? What could you offer? What unique experiences could you create for them that turn into revenue? And what could you offer to smaller brands? Gucci, their 100th anniversary last year, they created a physical garden in Florence to celebrate, but they also created a virtual version of it. You could buy anything that you saw in there as an NFT, a unique object. They've made over $2 million so far from selling virtual items from that garden. Hyundai wanted to get their brand out to a massive audience, so they created this virtual driving experience where you could go and design your car, you could be in a virtual theme park, you could play, you could interact, and just build your relationship with Hyundai because one day you might buy one of their cars. If we look at basically what we're saying is, and what people are saying is, the metaverse allows us to reimagine advertising experiences. We can start to put adverts in anything, a concert, an exhibition, a conference, you meeting your friends. We can start to take our customers there. Now, when we talk about 3 billion Facebook customers, I'm guessing at least a few of them are yours. And what Facebook know is that they get a lot of money out of new ventures. The biggest single space that gets money from investors is the technology space. And on average, technology companies that have raised money from venture capital spend between 60 and 80% of that on marketing, in Facebook, and on Google. So Facebook is saying, well, how much could we generate if we take that into the virtual space, into these metaverses, and start to create additional experiences by allowing people to buy NFTs, which we can then send content to over time. And then you've got the stuff that, even to me, is crazy. People who are building these spaces, like Sandbox and Decentraland are the two biggest new virtual worlds. Snoop Dogg, and I'm sure you're all big fans, has created, you don't have to laugh at the jokes, but they won't get any better. Snoop Dogg has created the Snoopverse, his own virtual world. You can buy parcels of land in the Snoopverse. Someone has just paid $450,000 for a parcel of land in the Snoopverse near the stage where he holds concerts. Why? Because they're going to build on that, and people are going to buy properties on there or build properties on there and pay a lot of money. Again, why is it worth that much? Same way as gold is worth as much as it's worth, because people are willing to pay for it. And that's what it's worth, because that's what people are willing to pay. Again, you can love it, you can hate it. What I'd ask you to be is curious. Just understand a little bit about it and then decide if you're interested. The NFTs then are kind of a really interesting tool for advertising. Coachella is a big music and arts festival in the US. And what they did this year was the tickets for that were all NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Basically, you buy them with a cryptocurrency, they're unique to each person. And what it meant was they're a collectible because over time, they will engage with you with more content from the artists and from the acts who perform. You will get unique offers because you hold one of these things. You will get, and obviously, because they've got hundreds of thousands of people who bought the tickets, you know their demographics, you know all about them. It becomes wonderful for advertisers because you know that this is an audience that's not going anywhere. Because in buying that ticket, they bought a lifetime of experience. And what that means is that that ticket could actually be worth more after the event than before, because someone wants all the content from the event plus everything that will come. So as an advertiser, that's fantastic, that I can do a deal with Coachella to say, can I keep pushing my content and paying up front to be there for the next 10 years, personalizing to the people who are on there. So what it starts to mean is that we can start to think about doing things very differently with NFTs, with the way we use them for advertising. Almost anything can become an NFT, and everything that's an NFT can become a space where we can create value. So it's mind-blowing, but what we would say is just give ourselves time to understand it and make our own choices. In terms of NFTs and cryptocurrencies, we're seeing a lot of brands launch their own NFTs with unique content. Coca-Cola created an NFT of one of their historic containers, and it went for auction for more than $3 million. In the same way as you would buy physical art, we're now saying buy digital art, and it's a collectible. The difference is if you buy a physical piece of artwork for $3 million, you will almost certainly not see it. You will put it in a bonded warehouse where it's secure, and you might visit it once every 2, 3, 5 years. If you buy a digital version of this, you can put it in an online gallery. No one can steal it because it's unique to you. And you can look at it whenever you want and have other people looking at it, knowing it's safe. And so we're seeing lots of brands creating unique collectibles that they're popping online for people to see, that people can buy, but also starting to create their own cryptocurrencies. Disney's talking about creating a cryptocurrency so it can basically eliminate Visa and MasterCard. It can basically say to you, look, we give you loyalty points when you buy from us, but if you buy our tokens, once you purchase them, you can do all your transactions with us anywhere in the world using our crypto. And again, because we've got you captive, we can then pump all sorts of advertising to you over time. And we're seeing all sorts of people saying that. So Miami has its own cryptocurrency. It makes money because every time a transaction is made and it's validated, it's mined, they get a proportion of the mining fee that's charged. In the first week alone, they raised over $1 million towards building infrastructure in Miami. Now, if you own that crypto, they can send adverts to you. So there's a kind of revenue stream that starts to emerge. All sorts of interesting possibilities start to emerge. In travel and tourism, in most sectors, there's an advantage. A lot of people are taking a marketing advantage from being the first in their sector to accept crypto. So the Dolder Ground in Switzerland, pretty much the first hotel to accept crypto payments. About a third of their customers pay in crypto. But far more valuable to them is the huge amount of PR they've had from saying they accept crypto. Every time someone writes about travel and tourism and crypto, they get mentioned. So there's some first mover advantages. So I've gone through this quite quickly. But I want to bring it back to you guys then and say, well, what do you do with this? There's a few options. One is do nothing, right? Just stay in your lane, carry on doing what you're doing, get better and better at what you're doing, deepen your relationships with everything you've heard today. Perfectly fine as a strategy. No one is going to come and tell you off. Or if they do, just ignore them, right? Your business, you know your risk appetite, you do what you want to do. The second is to say, well, okay, what's going on around me? What could we bring in to offer our customers that feels like it's the right thing? So my 50-year-old garage mechanic, their kids say, actually, we had these customers who come in for their bikes with their oil changes, but we have no control over when they come in. Could we use smart data to know that their oil is needing changing? So we start to market them on a regular basis. And once we start to get them coming back, we start to offer them incentives, other products, other services. Very simple tools, but AI enables that. So are there things that we can start to do that appeal to generations coming through? The next one is, are there partnerships we can form? So we can't do all of this stuff, but can we partner with Metaverse developers, NFT creators, all of these people, AI specialists, can we pull them together into an ecosystem? Or are we kind of hungry enough that we want to do it all? The tools, the hardware, the services, we want to become a full service player because we've got maybe tens of thousands of customers that we can offer this stuff to. We've maybe got some cash to buy some people to build into the story. So what do we want to do? Maybe we actually see that there's real value in building the underlying tools and services because we're really good at managing data. We want to play there. In the gold rush in San Francisco, yes, you may have made money if you were a gold miner. You may have made money from selling picks and shovels to the gold miners. But the people who made most money were the people who provided the hotel rooms and the food, because they made money every single day, whether or not you did. So software tools are in that space. And finally, if you're really ambitious, there's the architectures for this, because we're talking about a massive explosion of data with these technologies. I was with one of the world's biggest hardware manufacturers last week, talking about data storage. Not a very sexy subject, but what they were saying is that within 5 years, we could get to a yottabyte of data. That's like a massive number. To put that in context, if you use current storage technology to store 1 yottabyte of data, those hard drives would stretch from here to the moon and back 284 times. Right? So you need innovation. One of the innovations they're working on is to store information on DNA. About 3 years ago, the University of Pittsburgh, I think it was, stored 1 million books worth of information on the DNA of a single drop of water. These guys now believe that you could store the whole of all the information on this planet on 1 kilogram of DNA. So there's some really interesting stuff happening at the margins that will become mainstream. And maybe your players, well, I want to invest in those players. They're going to become like the hotel rooms and the food of the future for the gold mines, gold rush. So where do I want to play? It's all open. No one owns the space yet. Where do I want to play? So what do you do next? Well, the first is just spend some time. Give yourself permission to read a bit about this, watch a few videos, learn a little bit about the technologies. And as you're doing that, just kind of say, well, where do I sit? If you are not a first mover, if you're not generally in the first 50 out of 100 to adopt this stuff, then you're going to have to be quite brave to go there first. Right? Do some learning, look at the cases, start to investigate. And then the other big thing is start talking to your customers. Who in your customer base might want to experiment with you first? Who might be willing to play? So I think that's pretty much everything. What I would say is, just ask yourself, are you ready to start looking at this and asking some questions? Not to be defensive, no one's attacking, but just to say, what might be happening? Why are people going there? Where's the money? Where are the opportunities? Who might we partner with if we did go there? What does it take to build these solutions? And how might we test the water in a very low-risk manner? And the other side of it is, what are we going to do in terms of making sure we've got the right people or finding the people in our organization who are most passionate in exploring this? How do we develop the mindset inside the organization to be open to this? And then what are we going to do around the technologies to do this? Are we going to rent? Are we going to buy? Are we going to partner? But just starting to ease our way through this without feeling any stress, without feeling like you've got to do it, and without feeling like you've got to defend yourself if you don't do it. Because it's perfectly fine to be in any position on this. As I said at the beginning, the future is not predetermined. It's not guaranteed what's going to happen. Your choices to stay where you are could be perfectly valid. Your choices to experiment could be perfectly valid. The only thing is to make sure you're doing some learning, you're giving yourself some insight, and then you're making informed choices about what to do next. I hope that makes some sense, and good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much, Rohit. I think it's just, we need to think through about all of that, because there are some things that probably are not clear 100% to everybody. Just wanted to say, before we open the floor to questions, that Rohit's book are available. Rohit is going to do a book signing right after the session at the coffee break outside. So feel free to come and get your copy, because I think we should all use the learning and the reading. And yeah, opening the floor for questions.
And just to say, on the books, they're free. There's no need to pay in crypto or
Sorry.
anything.
Or with NFT if you want. Any question? Yeah, I think Cinda is seriously going to explore the NFT for the next Cinda conference. We should see that with you.
I have a question, Rohit. You gave that example of that hotel in Zurich, okay, as being one of the first movers. And, this morning we heard, when we listened to Digital Spain, and how, SMEs, okay, the hotel's a little bigger than an SME, but having a hard time transitioning. How many enterprises like that hotel in that middle size are actually doing this and accepting crypto? I mean, is it 5%, 10%, and why not?
It's changing rapidly. There's an exponential growth rate. So if you look every year, the number of businesses getting into crypto, in particular, NFTs have only been around really for a couple of years. The number of businesses getting into crypto is going up something like tenfold every year. MasterCard last year said, basically, any merchant who deals with them in the US or any bank can accept crypto, can issue crypto, and they can hold it. Now, what most people do is, because there are millions of customers out there who want to pay in crypto, in the US, something like 25% of customers say they want to pay now in crypto. So what most of the businesses are doing is saying, okay, we'll take the crypto in the same way as we would take euros, yen, pounds, and we'll just convert it straight to our base currency, maybe dollars. Some are saying, we'll take a little bit of a risk. We'll hold 1 to 5% typically of that crypto on our balance sheet and hope it goes up in value. Some are being even cleverer and saying, look, with you, the customer, we'll take 90% of your revenue, and we'll just keep it, but we'll take 10% and we'll put it on, in a crypto account, and then every 6 months or so, we'll look at the value of that. If it's gone up in value, you can choose to take your half of that and buy more goods and services from us at the price you paid previously. If it hasn't gone up, you just leave it there. I've locked you in at a price for future. I've locked you in as a customer. I'm building relationship. So people are starting to do some very clever things and starting to think in different ways, and it doesn't matter what size you are. More and more coffee shops are having loyalty cards. One single coffee shop has a loyalty card. Well, you can turn that into an electronic version, a crypto version. And what we're just seeing is, particularly the new generation of businesses coming through who are born digital or who think digital, are just wanting to use those tools in all sorts of interesting ways. And the question I would ask for this audience is, how well engaged are you with those audiences? And how much do you want to engage with those people who are likely to become significant parts of the economy going forward, and who don't want to stay as SMEs? Their desire is to become a billion-dollar unicorn as fast as possible. So when do you let go of them? What's your view about getting into those fast-moving businesses? And why wouldn't they come to you if you've got great expertise in a channel that they might want to promote themselves through? So what we're seeing is people not worrying about their size anymore, because whatever they want to do that a big company can do, they can find low-cost or no-cost platforms to do that. Again, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just excited by the level of innovation that's happening and the cool stuff that my kids tell me about, because I learn way slower than them. My son is my main source of research, the kind of fun stuff he's doing. And what's funny is his sister, who's only 6 years older than him, thinks that he's not ours. She thinks we swap children in the hospital because he couldn't possibly be related to her because he thinks so differently to her. They're still my kids, you know.
Okay, thank you. That was a good explanation.
Any other questions?
Any other
comments?
questions? No. Okay, and I recommend Steph because I've read the books, so they're really enlightening. So at the coffee break, thanks.
Thank you very much, Rohit. A round of applause also for Rohit. Yeah.